Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Money, Real Business podcast. I'm Lauren, and today we have Eric on the show who's selling an e-commerce, Amazon FBM, Amazon FBA, and a wholesale business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Hey Eric, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Lauren.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm going to give the listeners a brief summary of the business. As I said, this is an e-commerce, Amazon FBM, Amazon FBA, and wholesale business created in June 2020 in the automotive niche. The average revenue for the business is $44,645 per month, and it makes an average of $7,746 per month in net profit. The assets included with the business are an Amazon Seller Central account with 46 SKUs, a Shopify account, a domain, as well as all site content and files, an email list with over 1,400 subscribers, YouTube and Facebook social media pages and accounts, a trademark, and supplier relationships. Please note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to verified buyers. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 60127 to learn more about this business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now that we know more about the business, let's hear from the seller. Eric, can you fill us in on your background in starting and running online businesses?
Sure. So not a lot, actually. I was prior military. I was actually a career military, and I ran 3 different businesses while I was in the military throughout my career. So when I retired, it was what I wanted to do full time. And so this was my first take at a full-time business, and it was better than I expected. And so I'm just kind of continuing that. I need to get out now. And so that's kind of my background on businesses and how I got started in this one.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you've certainly experienced a lot of success for your first business, so that must be very exciting. What drew you to this particular business model?
So I wanted to be able to do something from starting out from home and see where it grew. And it grew quickly into a couple of storage units. And so it's at a point now where it needs to go even further, but I'm not really in a good place to do that now. So talk about that, I think, a little bit more coming up on why we're selling. But yeah, that's kind of the backstory to it.
Okay, great. This business earns money from a range of different monetization methods. Can you walk us through the various income streams that you have?
Yeah, so the biggest one, we do Shopify, of course, and that's actually the primary income right now. But the driver for those are social media in particular. We get a lot of YouTube traffic, and that's actually was the start to the business, was starting a YouTube channel and then having people find us through there. It's a very searched for topic on YouTube, and so there's a lot of people wanting that information. And so starting out with some tutorials and things on how our product works was really helpful in generating the initial interest. So that grew into emails, and as we've been out of stock over time, then people signed up for back in stock notifications that helped grow our email lists, and some other stuff we've done through Facebook and YouTube that have helped grow the business and increase those streams.
Fantastic. And what inspired you to move to expand from Shopify into Amazon as well?
Well, it was actually wanted to primarily be Amazon, and the backstory was originally WooCommerce, but WooCommerce was a little too slow, and so once we realized we were taking a hit with WooCommerce for page speed with Google, a little over a year ago, I believe it was, that we switched to Shopify, and that was for the speed increase. And then slowly there's larger profit margins with Shopify, so it's been kind of a mix of Amazon and Shopify for the last year. And I think it kind of leans more towards Shopify right now with the better profit margins anyway. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's good to diversify as you have done. You touched on this before, but what are your reasons for selling the business now?
So there's personal reasons behind that I don't feel this is the place to talk about, but it's a life shift right now for me personally. and I may go into other entrepreneur ventures, but this is a time that I just personally need to get out of this.
Okay, great. So looking back over your journey with this business, what would you say was your biggest win since starting the business?
Oh, that's easy. That was YouTube. When the first shipment came in and it was kind of sitting around, and I had it listed on Amazon and through WooCommerce at the time, or our online store, and trying to find a way to generate sales without paying tons for ads and stuff like that. Didn't really have the capital to be paying for ads and stock. So these are kind of high dollar items. So figuring out a way to get people to find the product was tough. And so YouTube, that was when started up our own YouTube channel. And after the first video was posted, we were completely sold out in about 2 weeks. And that was just an absolute amazing win. Was able to start ordering more inventory, and it just kind of took off from there. And then that opened up lines of credits with banks and some other sources of income. So that was amazing.
Wow, that's incredible, especially to achieve success on YouTube that quickly. That must have been really exciting. On the flip side of the coin, what would you say was your biggest setback or challenge?
Oh, that's another easy one. That's been the cash flow, which I know a lot of businesses experience. For instance, we sold out in 2 weeks, but then to order more of the product, high dollar items as they are, and there's a shipping delay. So you sell out in 2 weeks, and then you got to wait 3.5 months after you order more product, 3.5 to 4 months to get more from overseas. And so that was the biggest setback, is not having the cash flow. After we sold out the first time, we were able to get a little bit of a better cash flow going through loans and stuff through banks and some bootstrap funds, and then that helped. But there's still big lags in product and order time delivery. So yeah, definitely cash flow was the biggest setback.
Yeah, absolutely. That's understandable. You touched on the various ways that you drive traffic to your site a little bit, YouTube being quite an important one. Can you walk us through what marketing you do and where the majority of your traffic comes from?
Yeah, so the majority of it is through YouTube, and then emails. It seems like every time we send out an email, it does generate some sales and has been beneficial. But those are really it. We keep selling out a product pretty quickly enough that we haven't had to go down other really marketing avenues. It's been considered to do pay-per-click type advertising on Google and through Amazon, but it's just not necessary. The YouTube, for example, we had a YouTuber that reviewed one of our products. They did a tutorial where they used our product in it. And within maybe a week, we had sold out of that specific SKU on the website. So the power of YouTube and the consumption rate has just been so phenomenal that we haven't really had to explore other marketing other than email. It's pretty much primarily just YouTube.
Wow, that's a great position to be in. That's really fantastic. Certainly seems like there's a lot of demand for your product.
Yeah, there is. It's very technology centric. And so people are just consuming the content for this product pretty handily.
Yeah, that's great. With that in mind, what do you see as the major opportunities for growth with this business?
Variations of the product. So without getting into specific product details, there's a lot of variations that can be put on these products. We've already expanded the core product, the first product we had, into about a little over a dozen different variations of that product. And they all sell pretty well. And so expanding on that and going even further. And then there's some related product categories would be a very easy transition to get into. And so those would be, if we were to keep running this, those would be some areas we would go into.
Yeah, definitely great areas for growth there. Digging down now into different categories of your business, can you walk us through what your supply chain looks like?
Yeah, for our primary product, the big high ticket dollar product, and anybody that's going down this path will understand, we have one supplier, and we've tried a couple of backup suppliers, but our primary supplier is a pretty major manufacturer, and that can be given out to anybody that's interested, of course, who our supplier is. We can talk more about that. But yeah, we really have one primary supplier, and we have a couple of backups that we've already had orders from in the past.
Great. And whereabouts is your supplier based?
It is in China.
Okay. And when you receive inventory, is it being shipped by air or by sea?
So given the nature of our product, it can only be shipped by sea.
Okay, awesome. And how long does it normally take for you to receive inventory once you've ordered it?
From the day we put down the initial payment is between 3.5 to 4 months, roughly.
Okay, fantastic. Is inventory shipped directly to Amazon? Do you have a 3PL or are you self-storing the inventory?
Right now, it's self-storing. Again, there's some of our larger variations, they can't go to Amazon, and so they have to be stored either through a 3PL or on-site for us. And we've explored 3PL options, and so far it's just made sense with our quantities and levels to keep it on-site at a nearby storage facility. So that's been basically how we've been running that.
Okay. And do you have any inventory limits at Amazon warehouses at the moment?
No inventory limits. There's some smaller items we have that do need to be dialed back, but no, not to my knowledge.
Okay, fantastic. So what does a typical work week look like for you when running this business?
So typically, yeah, we a couple hours a day filling orders on site locally and then processing anything that comes in through Amazon, answering emails. There are some customer questions, people that find us on YouTube, monitoring social media, that kind of stuff, typical stuff, but usually not more than 2 hours a day. All in is maybe 2 to 3 hours a day.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty passive business.
It is. There's some customers that have questions. Sometimes there'll be defects or the units will, those answers have to be resolved, or questions answered and issues resolved. So that's really the gist of it. It's really not much of a heavy lift.
Yeah. And are you running the business alone, or do you have a team in place to help you out with different aspects of the work?
It's just me at the moment. I've been doing it from day one, and it's never been more work than I could handle. So I've never had to hire an employee other than some graphic stuff that I've had virtual assistants work on, some of the data sheets and product images and stuff like that. But pretty much everything else was me.
Fantastic. So, Eric, what would you say are the biggest challenges that a buyer might face when taking over this business?
The biggest challenge would probably be the 3PL aspect, only because I kind of touched on it earlier. The product can't be stored in Amazon. It's a little bit of a hazmat product. So there's a hazardous material component to it. And there are 3PLs that will take them, and there's a little bit more of an upcharge, but that might be the biggest. If somebody didn't want to run this on site themselves, that would probably be the biggest challenge, that and cash flow.
Yeah. And how much support are you willing to offer the buyer to help ease the transition?
Really, whatever's needed. I'm not taking off for the Caribbean or anything for the rest of my life, so I'm available. I wouldn't want to leave somebody hanging and feeling like they didn't get, proper support after the purchase. So I would be more than happy, 6 months to a year, even to answer questions or give support or offer advice to anyone that was buying the business.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think buyers will be very grateful for that. When it comes time to actually negotiate the sale of the business, would you be open to something like an earn-out agreement?
Really, no. The life of it I kind of mentioned earlier that's going on right now is I'd like to try to close this out without having any kind of additional buyout or anything like that down the road. But if time goes on and there's no interest, then obviously we may reconsider that.
Okay, great. And would you commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yes, absolutely. I've no issue with that, no desire to start a competing business.
Fantastic. As you say, this was your first e-commerce business. For any aspiring entrepreneurs who are listening in, who are thinking of starting a business of their own, do you have any advice that you would give them that you wish you knew when you first started your business?
Amazon is more complicated than you think. There are so many things in Amazon and little switches and the stuff behind the scenes that most people don't get to see with the trademark dealings and trying to get your product set up and then the spreadsheets and uploading all that stuff. Be prepared to put in a significant amount of initial work on something like that if you're starting a business like this from scratch. But don't get discouraged. It is all very doable.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Definitely something I think is often underestimated, but yeah, fantastic advice. So that takes us to the final question of the interview, and probably the most important one, which is, if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
I mentioned it earlier. Our product is kind of a more high dollar product. So the average, don't quote me on this, but if the average is around, if I had to guess, our average product for the main dozen that I mentioned earlier and those variations off of the first one we started with, the average sell price is around $450, maybe $500. And then the cost for that for a $500 product would be about $200 ish. And I'm just throwing out some very vague numbers here. But the point is that you don't have to have a lot of inventory to make a significant profit. So this is something that is doable from within your own small warehouse or even a garage. And so it makes it more doable and you have higher profit margins for single units. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well, but basically it's easy to get into. You don't have to have a lot of product and it has a very good margin for profit.
Fantastic. Yeah, it certainly sounds like there's great profit margins there. Definitely something to take advantage of. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that I might have missed?
No, I think you covered everything. It's interesting to try to talk around the product without actually labeling it. I think
Yeah.
anybody that is interested in the business would be pleasantly surprised once they realize what it is and the technology aspect and why it is people are consuming the content for what this product is so much out on YouTube. It's a very interesting niche to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Eric, for coming on and giving us a little bit more insight into you and your business. It's been an absolute pleasure. I certainly learned a lot, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate your time as well.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 60127. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.